Hello, class. I wanted to go over this week's lab. This is week 6, and it's the lab presentation synthesis of biodiesel. And so here is your same overview that you've seen before in the instructions. One thing I do want to mention is keep in mind that your videos that you do of your lab, you want to make sure that they're 2 to 3 minutes to get the full credit and that you're showing actually completing the lab, not explaining what's going on with the lab, but actually completing the lab. That's what I want to see in those videos. So make sure they're 2 to 3 minutes long and that you're showing what you're doing in the lab. All right, so we're going to get right into this week's lab. This first part tells you a little bit about the overview. So in this investigation, students will perform a transesterification of vegetable oil in the presence of a solid catalyst to produce biodiesel. Okay, and so you're going to be making diesel fuel. And so students will test for the presence of contaminants such as soap to determine the purity of their sample. All right, so here's a little bit of background about biodiesel and the synthesis for it. This shows you the detailed synthesis of the reaction that's taking place. It is a 4-step process to get that methyl ester, which is the biodiesel. All right. And so what we're going to be doing is you're going to actually produce this. And so what you want to do is first you want to gather up all your ingredients. And so what I want to do is stop sharing for a minute so that you can actually see this larger view. Okay, so it says you want your calcium hydroxide, and all these things came in your kit. So this, I can focus in here. Okay, I think you can see it. It's calcium hydroxide, comes in this little packet. Okay, so you want the glass vial, okay, which you have here. And it says that the calcium hydroxide is in a 1 gram glass vial, but it's 1 gram of it, but it's in a packet, okay, and not in a glass vial. Then you want your methanol. Your methanol is here in the clear plastic container. And you have vegetable oil. So the vegetable oil comes in here, and it also comes with the dropper, okay? And then you have your pH paper. There we go. All right, so that's your hydronium paper, pH paper. You'll see when you open it up, it has a little color scale that's going to tell you, based on the color you get, what your pH is. All right, and so this is the little pH papers. Oh, it's stuck at the bottom of there it goes. All right, so these little orange papers are the pH papers, okay? All right. And then they're going to change a color based on the pH. And then you match it up with this scale as closely to that scale as possible. All right, you're going to match up those colors. So it's similar to what we did when you were working with the cabbage juice, except for now, pH paper is another way of detecting pH. So there's the pH meter, pH paper, and then pH indicators. The indicators what you use with the cabbage juice, pH paper is what you use in this week. All right. And then you have, like I said, this is the glass vial, the 3 gram. All right. You have your electronic balance, and you have the glass tube. Okay. Glass test tube. It's probably wrapped up in probably some I think it was either this one or it was wrapped up in bubble wrap. Okay, so look for that. And then your graduate cylinder, your 10 mil graduate cylinder. Remember, this is what we use to measure all of our volumes. And then you, like I showed you, the dropper, okay? Your dropper pipette. and paper towels. I know what paper towels look like, but anyway, paper towels, water bottle with either bottled or purified water. If you have a water purifier in your home, that's perfectly fine. All right. And so I'm gonna go back to sharing because I want to go over safety. Okay, safety is very important. And so safety, so you want to wear your goggles. Okay, so these are the goggles that came in your kit. I'm wearing safety glasses. Either one works perfectly fine. You want to make sure you are wearing gloves, okay, and lab aprons. So I have on the lab apron. It's really nice. Okay, it's very nice. Thick lab apron. Okay, make sure that's on at all times while conducting this investigation. You want to read all the instructions for this laboratory activity before beginning. Follow the instructions closely and observe established laboratory safety practices, including the use of appropriate personal protective equipment or PPE. That would be your goggles or safety glasses. Make sure that you are wearing your lab apron and make sure that you have on your gloves, okay? All right, so methanol is flammable, okay? This is your methanol. You do not want this around heat or flame sources, okay? No smoking around this. Don't do it around the fireplace. Don't do it around open flame or the stove. You want to make sure that your area is free from any heat or flame sources, okay? Calcium hydroxide causes skin irritation. That's because it is a strong base. I don't know if you've ever heard of lye, but lye is also a strong base. That's sodium hydroxide, and it causes irritation of the skin. It burns your skin. The same thing with calcium hydroxide. So that's why very, very important that you wear these gloves when handling calcium hydroxide. And so you want to keep these gloves on until you complete the experiment and after you clean up. Okay. Very important because you don't want your skin to get irritated. If for any reason that it does come in contact with your skin, make sure that you rinse your skin or the contact area with cold water for 15 minutes, and that is very important. Okay. All right, and so then calcium hydroxide is a corrosive material and can cause serious eye damage. That's why protect those eyes at all times. Very important. Either safety glasses or safety goggles. If there's safety glasses, you want to make sure you have these side shields, okay? Because you don't want the solid to get through to your eyes from the side, okay? Very important. Methanol can cause organ damage if ingested, okay? Looks like water, but don't drink it, all right? Keep away from food sources. Methanol may be toxic if it is in contact with your skin. Again, very important you wear these gloves, okay? And be careful with when working with this. Do not eat, drink, or chew gum while performing this activity, okay? Candy is excluded as well, all right? So none of that while you're doing the experiment. Very important. Anytime you're working with chemicals, you never want to eat or drink around the chemicals that you're working with. It's very important. And so if you're performing this experiment, you don't want to perform it in a place where you would normally eat. So you don't want to perform it in the kitchen or in the dining room where you're normally eating. If you have an office area where you're not usually eating in that area, that's where you want to do this experiment, okay? Wash your hands with soap and water before and after performing the activity, just in case there's any residue of anything on your hands. Afterwards, you want to make sure that you're not transferring it to any food or drink afterwards, okay? You want to clean up the work area with soap and water after completing the investigation. You want to keep pets and children away from the lab material and equipment. And so some of the labs up until now, especially like the one with the marshmallows, the one where you were doing the color changes for the pH, with the cabbage juice. Those were all experiments you could easily do with your children. This is not one of those cases. Because we're working with a couple of dangerous chemicals, the calcium hydroxide and the methanol, you want to make sure that your children and pets are not around at this time, just in case contamination or anything is around. You don't want them in harm's way. All right. All right, so now that I've gone through the safety, and make sure if you have any questions about the safety or any questions about this experiment before you get started, please let me know, okay? And so I want to stress here before I go through and look a little bit over the procedure that you want to allow the reaction to occur over 48 hours. And so you don't want to start this experiment on Sunday night because it's not going to be completed by Monday morning. So you want to make sure that you give yourself 48 hours for the reaction to take place and then allow yourself time after that to complete the questions that you need to do for the experiment. All right, so you do want to measure out zero point zero 0.02 grams of calcium hydroxide into the 3 dram vial. Okay, so you want to measure it right into the vial. And to do that, you will use the spoon as well. I know I didn't talk about the spoon in the directions, but you will need it, okay, in order to measure this out. All right. It may be a little tricky maneuvering the spoon with because you're going into this vial. All right. But the it's a little wide, so you can kind of scoop it. 0.02 grams is not a lot, okay? Just to give you a heads up, it's not a lot. So because it's such a small amount, that's why you're measuring it directly into the vial, because you don't want to lose any into the weighing boat as you're doing this experiment. All right, so you're going to take one of your spoons and measure that out. Then you want to measure out 8 milliliters of your methanol into your graduated cylinder, okay? And so you're going to add the methanol once you've done that into the vial as well, all right? Then you want to cap it, okay? And you want to shake it vigorously, all right? This is where you get your workout in, all right? So you want to shake that vigorously, and then you want to allow the vial to sit for 10 minutes, okay? Shaking occasionally within those 10 minutes. Then you want to carefully open the vial, okay? This is going to have some pressure in it because you've been shaking this liquid, all right? So it's going to build up some pressure. So you know when you open up, like say a soda can and there's pressure in here, it's going to go, okay? So the same thing here. So you want to gently unscrew it, okay? Make sure it's not pointing at your face. Point it away from your face, okay? And then open it, all right? And then you're going to add your 1 ml of the vegetable oil. You measure that in your graduated cylinder, and you're going to pour it into the vial. Cap it, shake it vigorously, and then you're going to let it sit for 48 hours. Now, you do want to shake this vial occasionally to let the solid calcium methoxide to react with the triglycerides. You want to submit a photo of this, okay? So that's your first activity. Then the second activity is to test the quality, okay? And so there's a few things you want to do. You want to weigh an empty 10 milliliter graduated cylinder. So your graduated cylinder within this 48-hour period will have dried. So you want to rinse this out really good. Just let it air dry. Okay, don't try to stuff a paper towel in there. That's not going to be a good thing. All right. So just let it air dry. Okay. It should air dry within those 48 hours perfectly. So then you're going to weigh this. Okay. Record the mass in your table, and then you're going to pipette some of your biodiesel that's in this vial. Okay. And you just want to be, the biodiesel should be the top layer, the top liquid layer. Okay. Because it's an oil. Oils are going to float. All right. So you're going to dispense 1 ml of your biodiesel into the graduated cylinder, record the volume, all right? And then you're going to weigh it again, all right? When you take the mass, all right, of your graduated cylinder, with the biodiesel minus the mass of just the graduated cylinder, that's going to give you the mass of the biodiesel. You want to calculate the volume, okay? So the volume, sorry, you're measuring the volume, you want to calculate the density. So the density is equal to the mass that you get in step 5 divided by the volume that you measured, that 1 milliliter, okay? That's going to give you the density. It says up here that the density of your biodiesel should be 0.88 grams per milliliter. We're seeing how close our biodiesel came to this value. Okay, that's what we're testing. So we're going to take a strip of the pH paper and we're going to dip it in the biodiesel. Record the pH. Okay, remember we're using that chart. Dispense 1 ml of the biodiesel into the glass tube. Okay, that's your glass tube. All right, and then you're going to measure 7 milliliters of the methanol. Okay, that's still your methanol. And add it to the test tube with gloved hands. Remember, we're wearing the gloves the whole time. So this should still, you wear it for activity A, and you're also going to make sure you're wearing your gloves for activity B. Okay. Sorry, activity 2. So with gloved hands, you're going to place the thumb over the mouth of the test tube. So like this, but with the gloves, and you want to shake it vigorously. Excuse me. You're going to place the test tube in the test tube rack and allow to sit for 10 minutes. Record whether an insoluble layer forms. This layer contains unreacted triglycerides or intermediates. So submit the photo to photo of the test tube. All right. So then cleanup. So for your cleanup, you want to dispose of the solutions down the drain with the water running, okay? And then allow the faucet to run a few minutes to dilute the solutions. You want to rinse and dry the lab equipment and return the materials to your equipment kit. And then sanitize your workspace. Remember, with your graduate cylinder, along with your test tubes, along with your vials. Okay, you want the insides to air dry. You're only drying the outsides with the paper towel. The insides, no, just let it air dry and it'll be just fine. Right. And if you have any questions, okay, just let me know. All right. On the next page, what you'll see is you'll see the table where you put all your information. Okay. And then you'll submit your pictures. And if you're struggling with submitting pictures, one thing I do want to show you, as long as your picture that you take, okay, you've uploaded it, then you can just drop the image here. Okay, so you're going to click on this little picture button and then drop your image here, and then you're going to add it. All right. So you want to drop some pictures in there. And then you want to answer these questions about the lab. And then your last question is where you put your video. Okay, remember, with the videos, 2 to 3 minutes of you actually performing a portion of this lab. All right. And then don't forget, save and review attempt. All right. So we'll enjoy this lab and have a great day.